bursting out of my body when you were talking because I wanted to say so many things. And
I don't mind those questions.
I've always found that very interesting about Greek mythology, that they are gods, but they're all flawed, and they want revenge.
We're like, oh, now it makes sense.
But how cool you got to see it with two lenses, not one. So you weren't wrong. You just got to see it in a different lens.
I'm speaking into a robot, aren't I?
Table for one can be fun.
Right. I was thinking about forgiveness, and I was like, maybe that's not the way to go.
My key motivator in life is pain. I make the most progress in my life when I'm in pain.
Her artistic longevity is stunning. That's inspiring to me.
My brain is running thousands of miles a minute all the time.
And silence. Thank you for listening to the Last Will podcast. I'm Matt Young. I'm a theater educator and a parent. And ever since I lost my father to cancer, I have been mildly obsessed with death. This is my last will and testament. Alexander Graham Bell once said, "The only difference between success and failure is the ability to take action." Today's episode is all about procrastination. Let's get to it. Today's episode is brought to you by the Crystal Theater production of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, running October 20th through the 29th. Discover a theatrical masterpiece that will leave you breathless. Step into the shoes of Christopher Boone, a remarkable 15-year-old with an extraordinary mind. As Christopher embarks on a mission to solve the mystery of a neighbor's murdered dog, he'll be taken on an unforgettable journey filled with suspense, courage, and unexpected discoveries. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime is a thought-provoking exploration of the human connection, resilience, and the power of embracing our differences. It challenges us to question our perceptions and discover the beauty in the unconventional. Join us at Crystal Theater and witness this theatrical phenomenon that has enthralled audiences worldwide. This is an opportunity to be moved by an exceptional cast of actors who bring Christopher's story to life with raw emotion and authenticity. Don't miss your chance to be a part of an unforgettable evening of theater that will leave you inspired, enlightened, and eager to see the world through new eyes. Book your tickets now at crystaltheater.org.
So frequently so in depth for the last hour.
Well, I mean, the irony of the whole thing is that if we're doing a subject on procrastination, we absolutely procrastinated in getting going. So that's something we're good at.
We totally did.
It is the Last Will podcast way to have a full episode before we start rolling.
Yeah.
On whatever it is.
And I think the last time you and I were together without Grady, we had a pretty solid conversation about the topic before we started recording.
Oh, that was
friendship.
We had to get that all out.
Yeah.
So that we didn't burn any bridges, I guess.
That's true. That was
we
important.
Didn't scorched earth is what that would have been. Interesting too that some of the feedback on the friendship episode was we never spoke about how we all became friends or our friendship, and so maybe there was a positivity that was missing because we were getting out our grievances on friendships.
Yeah, we definitely did not speak about the positives of friendship.
But it's we learn lessons through failure more than we do through successes. Successes feel good, but we learn through failure, and there was a lot of things that I feel were important to say. So I didn't feel negative, even though it was coming from I don't know if it was coming from a negative place, an honest place of my struggles with friendships. Hi everybody. It's the Last Will podcast. It's just Claire and Matt today.
Hi.
How are you guys? We're going to talk about procrastination because it's an important subject that we avoid getting to.
Or maybe we won't talk about it.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes. Grady was busy today. Just so you know, he's not here. And last week, although you won't get these in order, and so we don't have to give the date, but last week was Grady's birthday.
Oh, it was his birthday.
And he decided that he didn't want to tell anybody because he doesn't like to make a big deal out of his birthday. And so I went and got him presents.
Oh,
afterwards.
Good.
And they're wrapped, and I'm going to give them to him today. And next year, if we're doing this for a year, and I hope we are.
Oh, I hope so too.
We are doing a Grady birthday episode.
Yeah.
Because I don't care whether he wants to celebrate it or not. We're celebrating him.
Yeah.
Celebrating him.
He doesn't get a choice.
No, as he shouldn't. We just found out it was raining today, and we just had a nice conversation about umbrellas and raincoats. And Claire has a beautiful raincoat that she doesn't wear enough.
No, because I never know when it's going to rain because I never look at the weather forecast, and I just never have it on me, and I never have it available when I need it. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if I should always keep it in my car because then I don't have a raincoat to wear to the car.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. I mean, I do have an umbrella in the car.
Okay.
But I do have an umbrella in the house. So maybe one's for traveling to and fro and one just sits there. I don't know. They're pairs for some reason. I don't. Well, maybe somebody else can use it if I'm lucky enough to have somebody else in my car. We at least have two umbrellas. Now, I think the real question is, if you kept it in your car, would it wrinkle? Is it that type of garment?
It's fine. It's one of those. I don't know what the material is. I'm not very good at identifying materials, but
Right.
it's fine. And even if it does wrinkle, to me, it doesn't matter. It's a utility, so I'm not as upset about a wrinkled raincoat as I would be about a white wrinkled sweater on a summer's day.
Right. So you went to the theater last night.
I sure did.
And you got dressed up.
I did.
Because you think that getting dressed up for the theater is important.
Yeah, and every time I do that, and then I sit in a dark audience for 2 hours, I'm like, why did I get dressed up?
I don't know. I think it makes you feel good. Your sweater was super soft.
So soft. And actually, I did not. The sweater was an afterthought because I knew the focal point was actually the shirt I was gonna wear that I wore under the sweater.
Right.
And I was more excited about that. But then I was leaving the house and I was like, I'm going to be cold in that theater because there's going to be air conditioning. So I'm going to bring this sweater that I got recently that I really like, that's really soft and looks summery.
I think your subconscious knew that because I was in the theater that I was going to turn the air conditioning on high so that it would definitely be cold.
Yeah, well, that was the type of play that needed to be well air conditioned. Yes. There was a little too much movement.
we wanted to play the heat as opposed to actually feeling the heat.
Yes.
I thought about that sweater when I went home. I think it's the first time I thought about a garment ever afterwards. I was like, God damn, that's soft. If I could get sheets like that.
Yeah. No, you don't want sheets like that because you don't want to sweat that much when you're sleeping.
No, I want it maybe on a huggable pillow then.
Well, you want it as a sweater. It's perfect as a sweater because you don't want it as a pillow because then it's like...
If I was wearing that sweater, I don't mean to cut you off. If I was wearing that sweater, I would be constantly rubbing myself, and that would not be good. I would just be rubbing my arms, and people go, Matt, what are you doing? I go, it's so soft.
Just feeling my sweater.
Soft. Yeah, it would make people uncomfortable, I think.
It's the unfortunate thing about material like that is that it doesn't stay that soft forever. And the sad thing is that eventually you have to wash it. And now this sweater is a white color. So at some point, I'm afraid there might be a stain. At some point it might start to I'm going to have to wash it. I'm going to have to. And then it's probably going to lose its fluffiness. So the point, what I would like to do is never wash that sweater.
I've just become incredibly sad thinking that sweater is not going to be as soft.
Yeah,
I hugged you last night. The first thing I thought was God damn it, this is a fucking soft sweater. I couldn't get yes, it's good to see you, Claire, but first of all, this sweater has made an impact on my life in a way that I never thought a sweater could make an impact.
There are fabrics. My friend works for a fabric company, and she gets access to certain linens,
Right.
She gave me a slip cover for a pillow.
Ooh.
That was this. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you touch, and it does something to you. It gives you endorphins. And she gave me one, and I was so happy with it. And it
sounds like the greatest present ever.
It really is, but it's just not the same anymore.
Oh,
I know, and
nothing lasts. There's a metaphor there, or not even a metaphor, but a lesson. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, it's really sad. But I mean, I still use it. But I
and you have the memories.
I treat it as if it's brand new. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to use this pillow. It's just completely wrong.
I brought that up because we were talking about your style, which I think is very good. I'm always envious. I don't wear clothes outside of comfort. I wish I could. Our friend Patrick wears a suit like it's a suit of armor.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how well he wears the suit.
He's very well dressed.
And we were talking about that. You and I went to the theater a little while ago, and you said to me, like, I'm not dressing up. And I said, oh, okay, sure. I'm going to wear shorts and a button down. I'm dressing like me. And you're like, yep, I'm not dressing up.
I think you looked better. You looked good that night. Like,
thank you.
You dressed well that night for going to the theater.
Well, thank you.
I think I wore bell bottoms and a hoodie.
And you and you were like, I'm dressing down. I'm not doing it. And you still looked good. Like even your dress down fashion was good.
I was definitely ready for bed before we got there.
Oh yeah. Well, when the lights go out in the theater, sometimes you could just fall asleep.
But in this case, the lights were still on behind us. Remember?
I do remember.
Yeah, the lights went off, and then the lights behind us from the tech booth were shining down on us.
I just there's some things that you don't understand.
Which I maybe it was our responsibility to tell them. They probably didn't know that it was affecting our viewing experience.
Yeah, I've already written most of a stern letter. So if I can get your signature on it, we'll send it to that theater to let them know. Speaking of things that you catch out of the corner of your eye, I was performing last night for Claire. It wasn't just me and Claire. I wasn't just performing for Claire. There was an audience of people. And we make a lot of changes because I play a lot of different characters. And at one point, I make a quick change from like modern day to this old French restoration, whatever. And I forgot to take my shirt off from the modern thing. So I was wearing this modern blue shirt underneath like a Three Musketeers, whatever tunic. I can't remember what it is.
Wait, are you sure?
I'm positive. And I'm doing the scene. And during the scene, I am seeing out of the corner of my eye blue. I'm like, there's blue coming out. Why is that? Am I losing my mind? I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I'm swinging my arms around and doing the scene. And every once in a while, I'm like, why do my sleeves seem blue? Why are they like blue? And I'm like distracted, but I'm still doing my stuff. I get off stage. I take the tunic off. I'm still wearing the shirt. I'm like, oh, fuck. I've never done that before in my life.
Was this you were wearing the Three Musketeers thing, but the cape was over it, right?
The Three Musketeer things is like a cape. That was over
the blue shirt.
The light blue shirt that I wore in my character from the 50s.
Nobody noticed.
No, except for me. Like out of the corner of my eye.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the experience at that theater where we're seeing the tech booth's light just out of the corner of your eye, distracting you enough to like just get in your head a little bit and distract you from what's going on in the theater.
Oh my God, that's the worst when you're on stage and something is just not right. And I mean, for me, it sends me into a tizzy.
Yeah.
Which happened to me at work this week when we hired a new person and I was focused on helping her with something. But
my neighbors love slamming the doors. Jesus, you probably couldn't hear that.
So loud. But it's like maybe being at work for me is a little bit of like being on stage. Like I expect things to go a certain way, and if I get thrown off by something, I kind of lose my balance.
Okay.
And there was, because we have this extra energy at the store, and we have a new person who's trying to learn the ropes. And there's a customer that came in that I just wasn't sure what to do. And this person also wasn't sure what to do because my manager said to me, Claire, help her do this. And I said, okay. And so I go to the customer And I'm like, am I supposed to help the customer and then tell this person what to do, or is this person supposed to help the customer? I wasn't sure. And it was a very awkward exchange. The customer was going back and forth about what they wanted, but also very adamant about what they wanted and what they didn't want.
Right.
And then I had to just like get to a point where I had to ask the customer, like, do you just told me you want this, but you don't want this, but then you said this, so which is it? And I almost got a little bit fresh with the client. I know. And because I had no patience.
Right.
I had no patience.
And did it
people.
not feel, it didn't kind of feel like your customer either.
And I think if the new hire wasn't there, I would not have acted like that.
Right.
I would have acted a little bit kinder and a little bit more, I don't know. I think because this person had a watch strap that was falling apart, and she was like, no, I'm not going to fix it. And I'm like, but if you wear it, it's going to fall off.
Right.
And she's like, that's fine. And I'm like, but it's not fine.
It's like they're so suspicious that you're trying to upsell them, but you're not trying to upsell them. You're just trying to give them the reality of like, here's my expertise. And my expertise says, if you value this watch, you're going to lose it because things are falling apart. And the person is on the other side going like, oh, you just want my money.
Well,
like,
and the other thing was that, they were like, well, how much is this? I'm like, it's $15. Well, then how much is this? That's also $15. Well, are you going to do this right now? No, I can't do it right now. I've got a store full of clients and a jeweler that can't be interrupted, and I can't leave the sales floor. And she's like, all of the things that I was suggesting were a problem to the client.
Right.
And when it's really not to, give a lot of insight into what I do for work, but I work at a jewelry store, and there are times that clients come in for purchasing jewelry, which is very important. It's how we make our money. And then there are clients that come in, and the clients that come in to buy jewelry are so kind. And they're lovely, and that's it's fun, and you talk about style and what this person likes, but then you have the people who come in to change their watch strap, and they're like they're not nice.
Right.
They're not nice people, and they want what they want, and they want it now, and they don't understand why you can't do it. And it's because I'm not a factory to repair your watch.
Right.
I am a jewelry store, and I'm in charge of selling jewelry. And my job is to know things about jewelry and sell things about jewelry, and it's not to inform you and investigate and tell you why your bent watch pin is not working.
Is that part of the overall service? It's just not the main thing, or
it's just one service we provide.
Right.
And
for some reason, those people who need that stuff done,
they just seem to be the most difficult customer.
Right. They're the entitled customer that's like, this is what you do, so do it now.
Yeah, and they don't understand why we won't do it right away. And we now have a very strict policy that we don't do it while you wait. And there is always an exception. And the exception is, I really wanted to give this today as a gift to my son who's graduating and going to school, like off to school tomorrow. And it's like, okay, I'll make that exception for you.
You've just given away the secret now. Now everybody's going to know. I gotta give it away as a gift today.
Or if you come in and you're like on an oxygen tank and you're in a wheelchair or you have a walker, okay. Because we know you don't want to come back and make that trip again.
Yeah.
But it would have been good if you called ahead of time.
I also wonder if just being pleasant and kind and courteous will also get you better service.
But the pleasant and kind and courteous people do not make demands.
No, exactly. I was hoping that I could get this done today, but, they understand.
The worst is when they come in on a Saturday and they won't get it back until Tuesday. But then I say, if you come in on Tuesday, you can have it on Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. But there are also people who aren't just jewelers. I don't know what the profession is called that just fixes watches, but there are places that do that.
A watchmaker.
Yeah, a watchmaker. Thank you for the technical term. There are places that do exactly that aren't a jeweler. I hope you guys charge twice for that, like double.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's what you guys should do. You should charge double for that type of service, because if you're coming to you're coming to a place that is a jeweler who is going to help you find the perfect ring or earrings or bracelet for a loved one, or fix something antique.
Resize your ring.
Resize your ring, yes, because you've lost all this weight, and congratulations, you're starting your new life. All of that is beautiful service towards humanity. But if you just want the other thing, it should charge double. You should charge double.
Well, we did raise our prices, and we lost some customers from it, and we were totally fine with that.
Yeah.
You used to charge $10. Well, we did charge $10 for 30 years, and we're now charging $25.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Sorry. Would you like to look at some jewelry? No, I don't wear jewelry.
Well,
Get
and
out of my
I would
store.
think too, retention of clients is much better for business than just new clients.
I had to, at one point, recalibrate the way that I thought about myself in this job.
Okay.
And this was many, many years ago when I was... I always thought that being in customer service and being in retail meant that you had to serve others. And I didn't like that position because I felt used and I felt less than, and I felt like I didn't have any importance. And I used to work with this woman who's much, much older, and she's a little spitfire. She must be she's in her 80s now. And there was one time that a client referred to us as service people. And this woman, her name was Florence, she was so offended by that comment, and she was like, I can't believe she said that. We aren't service people. And I was like, aren't we though? And she was like, no. Like, we work for a revered and a beautiful luxury business, and we are here to take care of you. But we are not here for you to talk down to us.
Right.
And we require respect.
Right.
And I didn't ever think about it that way. And as soon as I had that experience, I started to think of myself as far more important so that I wouldn't let people walk all over me.
Well,
And
you have an expertise.
yes, and I didn't know I had an expertise.
Yeah.
I didn't know that having the knowledge that I had, I didn't think that was... I mean, some people come into your store and they want to assert themselves. They want to tell you how to do your job.
Right.
And I assumed that was normal, but I then learned that I can tell people how I do my job.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people come in trying to, whether it's defensive or not, try to make sure that you're not going to pull one over on them, or
No.
and
Yeah.
it's not it shouldn't be an adversarial relationship.
No.
At all. Now you just procrastination. What is procrastination? I don't know if you guys enjoy this, but to me it feels clever. Procrastination, definition, refers to the act of delaying or postponing tasks, actions, or decisions that need to be accomplished within a specific time frame. It involves actively avoiding or putting off taking action on important or necessary activities, often in favor of more immediate and pleasurable tasks or distractions. Procrastination is typically characterized by a lack of motivation, difficulty focusing, and a tendency to engage in unproductive or irrelevant activities rather than working towards the completion of essential tasks. While occasional procrastination is a common experience for many individuals, chronic or excessive procrastination can lead to negative consequences such as an increased stress, decreased productivity, missed deadlines, and a sense of guilt or regret. Two things I want to say about this.
Mm-hmm.
One, I think that's pretty accurate. Mm-hmm. Two, that paragraph felt very long to read. It wasn't, on paper, very long, but it felt like it took forever.
Did you not want to read it? Did you procrastinate reading it for 20 minutes?
I did.
Because it looked too long?
And I did. And then I also had other things going on in my head. And so I'm just going to follow those things. You recently had an opportunity to be the client in a sales exchange, right?
I did? Oh, I did.
Yeah, you did. And And so you, as a jeweler, you have a certain expertise. You're not in the service industry. You're there to help someone find the thing that they need. You needed a car.
Mm-hmm.
You went out. What was your experience as the client towards these somewhat experts? And now my family's been in the car business my whole life, so I understand a little bit about how this works and the so-called or quote-unquote expertise of the car salesman.
So for me, my what I enjoy about car sale is finding the right salesperson.
Right.
Because you're creating a little bit of, I need to have a relationship with somebody that I feel so comfortable with that I can ask a bunch of questions and not feel stupid asking the questions. So what I will say about this experience is that I was not sold a car. No one tried to sell me a car. We talked about, well, I mean, I did have one guy try to sell me like some different cars, but it was more like selling the number, a service, lease or not lease, a number of like, oh, well, maybe you can buy this car because it's a little bit more in your budget. But I went to them and I said, I'm looking for this kind of car. And they said, it was between like a Toyota RAV and a Corolla Cross. And I said, I did a little bit of reading on it and this is what I found. And they're like, yeah, that's pretty right. And when I test drove both of the cars, I liked the RAV better, but I didn't like the price.
Right.
And then there was a big discussion about what I could really afford. And it was a stretch. It was a stretch from what I had wanted to pay.
Right.
And I'm trying to think about, I had two completely different sales experiences in two different dealerships.
Right.
One guy was really taking care of me, and then the other guy was just trying to sell me. He really wanted me to buy the car. Like I went to another dealership.
Like there was pressure.
It's so much pressure.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I went from one dealership to the other in the same day. And then I was like, okay, let me think about it. And he was like, no, what can I do to make you take the car today? Like,
Right.
And I'm like, what? Like, leave me alone. I really, really did not like that.
Did they then bring out the manager to talk to you about what the extra things that they could do for you today to put you in this car?
No.
What can we do to put you in this car today?
They didn't. But I wasn't there for very long.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing. If you're going to purchase a car, right, you have the power. You could just walk away at any time.
I know.
They're going to put the pressure on, but you could walk away at any time.
I played a game without knowing I was playing a game because the second dealership said, all right, well, we're going to give you $1,500 more on your car as a trade-in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's actually very appealing because the other place wouldn't budge on that.
Right.
And then we're going to also take XYZ off of the car today. And I was like, that's also very appealing. And I was like, ooh, what do I do? So then what I did is I called the first dealership and I called because I wanted to see if they would match that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I actually wanted to work at the first place better because I liked the guy more. And he didn't answer.
Silly man.
So I said yes to the second guy.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You can say yes and then you can back out.
Yeah.
So I said yes. I put a deposit down of like $500 and they were like, congratulations, blah, 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 this and that. And they were like pretty much acting like I was going to get the car. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. We'll see.
Try to Jedi mind trick you into definitely taking it.
And then, And then I finally got in touch with the first guy and I said, can you counter this offer? And he was able to. And then for the next 24 hours, I was staring at these numbers. And I was trying to figure out, like, the numbers from one place and the numbers from another place. And I realized that the offer from the second dealership was not stronger than the first one.
Yeah.
The first guy was able to come down. And to be honest, I think it's because I think they messed up their numbers. I think somebody read something wrong from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think I gave paperwork to the first guy and said, from the second place, and said, match this. And I think he read the numbers wrong because he came down way more than I needed him to come down.
Yeah. Yeah. They also, whoever that guy is, doesn't have your expertise. You know, your expertise in what you sell, you know, inside now, and you are continuing to learn. That's not always true. There's like, the way they do it these days, there's like tiers of salesmen, you know, and there's always someone behind the scenes. I don't know if they mess the numbers up because someone would catch it along the way.
For the entire experience, there's a lot of messing up of numbers.
But all of those numbers, we'll add 1,500 to this,
yep,
and we'll knock off. All of that money was always available to them from the beginning. They were just trying to get that extra money out of you, but all of that money was available to them to take off.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
what they would sell their friends or, you know, friends of the company. Those are the prices that you're like moving to, like the bottom line of what they can really sell it for. And they don't make a lot of money. Dealerships don't make a lot of money on new cars. They make a lot of money on used cars, more money on used cars than anything else. But they don't have that expertise that you have.
Well, what I would have, so the first guy, what was I going to say? That was...
You were saying that he messed up, or...
He messed up so what he did that I did appreciate as a salesperson working for a company and backing up your company is that I asked him if he could take off XYZ.
Right.
And he said, I can work on this, but I can't take off this because this is a non-negotiable fee. And I was like, okay, I get that, because as a salesperson, there are certain things I just can't do.
Right.
And I mean, I've had clients look at diamonds with me for $25,000 and say, well, I could buy it online for $15,000. And I'm like, my mind is completely blown, first of all.
Right.
And again, you're spending $15,000 on a stone that you're buying from the internet, which is hysterical.
Good luck.
Yeah. And then but then I'm also looking at it and I'm like, where's the extra 10,000? Like, what? Why is it that, how is that possible? But the diamond industry is a completely different conversation. But I can't move to that number. I just can't. I can't buy it for that. So, and if anything, I've seen my company make no money, make $5 on a diamond sale because we just want the client's business.
Right.
So
retention.
Yep. So anyway, this guy, the first guy, you know, he gave me his final number, and then, I could see that he was working really hard for me. Yeah. And then the second guy, I pulled out of the deal on the second guy, and he like sent me an email. He was like, would it help if I took another $1,500 off? And actually, no. The answer was no, because I knew that they were still going to tack on fees.
Oh, absolutely.
That they weren't telling me about, which I really didn't like.
No.
The first place gave me a completely itemized list of everything. The second place did not.
Right. You think you're getting your car for this price, and then all of a sudden you're walking out, and there's another $3,000. You're
yep.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
And that's not okay.
No.
That's not okay for someone who, to the penny, needs to know exactly what they're paying.
It's such a big investment that it's hard to believe that they can get away with that.
Because they know that, and even when it came down to like the last minute, when I was working on the financing situation when I ended up making this deal, I went through a credit union that requires that you provide a purchase order.
Right.
And when I got the purchase order, I noticed the number was wrong. And then I went back and I got a second one, and that was also wrong. And then they were closing, and they said, we'll just figure this out tomorrow. And in my head, I was like, what do you mean? Like, the second purchase order was less money than the first one.
Right.
And it was supposed to be less, but it was too much less. And I said, if I give this to my credit union and they cut me a check for the wrong amount, and then the dealership tells me that I owe them another $1,500 because I figured out they left out the tax,
right?
Which I figured this out on my end. Then I'm stuck with paying an extra $1,500 out of pocket,
right?
Because you made a mistake. And
No
it's
good.
tax. And
Yep.
no one can argue with tax.
Stupid tax. Also, like a dealership, just on a side note, a dealership is trying to get you to continue to do business with them. And what that means is that you're going to get your car serviced with that dealership. So if you are not making a good relationship with your salesperson and then don't have a good thought about the dealership, you are going to take your car to be serviced anywhere else. They make money off service. Service is a huge thing because there's a lot of like warranty work. If you get warranty work on your car, that means that they can bill the company. Like if it's a Ford, they'll bill Ford for it because it's warranty stuff. So they love to do warranty work. It doesn't cost you anything, and they know how to get money. It's like insurance. They get it from the big guy. But like that's the retention when you feel like you're being taken care of. And then in 5-6 years or whatever, you're going to get a new car, or you're thinking about that, or your lease is up, you continue to be with them.
Interesting, because I didn't really think about it that way. When it comes to... Now, I didn't really like the way that it ended with the first dealership. I bought the car from them, but I was like, I want to get this car and I want to get out of here and never come back. Because I don't even know. I guess I could technically do that. Like I could go to another dealership.
Oh, absolutely. You can go wherever you want.
To get it serviced.
Absolutely. Or you can go to a mom and pop shop.
Oh, you're right. I could totally
You
do
know,
that.
for sure. Somebody who you trust, who you feel is not going to upsell you on anything. But yeah, that's a huge. It's playing the game for sure, and they have to play it better because your experience leaving there should be like you want to come back because you felt well taken care of by them. They will send you stuff going, oh, it's time to get your car serviced, blah, blah, blah. You should do that, or we're having a sale, or all of this stuff I get from my Audi dealership.
They didn't talk to me about cars. We didn't talk about cars. I actually left there not knowing how the car worked.
That seems silly. But also, like, people come in knowing what kind of cars they want, and then, like you said, it's about what kind of program are we going to put you in? Are you going to lease it? Are you going to buy it? Can we upsell you on this? What do you want? They just want to make the sale. I really do just want to make the sale.
Now, what I liked about my car salesman is that he wasn't too salesy.
He didn't wear a tie?
Is that thunder?
I think it is thunder.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Could you people hear that? You probably couldn't hear that.
Huh.
We enjoyed it.
So there were days that he wore his like Toyota costume.
Polo. His Toyota costume.
And then
imagine people what a Toyota costume would look like. He's dressed up like a transformer.
And then he would wear, and then there were other days that he wore a really snazzy outfit.
Ooh.
Which was really cool. I liked that. But I could tell like he really knew cars like very well. Like I probably could ask him, as I got to know him, I told him, I was like, I want a car that's higher because I keep scraping the bottom of my sedan.
Yeah.
And he was like, you could not do that. And I was like, I've tried not doing that and it doesn't work. And he was like, no, you can definitely, there are ways that you can pull into driveways that prevents
and not
that.
do that.
Yeah. And I actually didn't know that.
So he did have some expertise.
Yeah, but he didn't like offer it. Like when I'm at my store, and yes, I also do sell my service because service is a humongous part of my company. And I also want clients to come back. So and we actually cultivate that relationship. We contact them after they've purchased something. We send them a handwritten thank you note.
Yeah.
And then we follow up with them via text and after 6 months, and we say, come in to have your pieces cleaned and checked. And which most of the time is just having it cleaned, having your beautiful diamond studs cleaned.
And even if they don't come in, it's basically like, hey, remember that time where we got together and we found this beautiful piece of jewelry and you were very happy?
Yeah.
And just basically saying hi.
Yeah.
Basically saying, you don't have to come in, but basically reminding you that if you ever have these things again, we're here for you.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So, but I have exhausted myself over the years trying to learn as much as I can about jewelry and diamonds and gemstones so that I can answer the hard questions.
Yeah.
because that's just how I am. I also get clients that ask me tricky questions, and I want to be able to answer them without deferring to someone else because I want to feel in control. And I don't want to be like, oh, I don't know the answer to that question. Let me get somebody else.
And it makes them feel safe.
And I want to be that somebody else that someone needs the answer to that question.
You're asking for, I think most of the time, a pretty big commitment. You know, like a car, when you're purchasing a car, it's a pretty big commitment for sure. If you're purchasing a piece of jewelry, you're asking for a pretty big commitment.
Oh, yeah.
And so you want to feel safe in that purchase.
Mm-hmm.
The jewelry that I bought in the past has been an investment for me, but not like I'm sure some of the things that you sell. You were just talking about a $25,000 diamond.
Yeah.
It's a
lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not there to try and squeeze the money out of you.
No.
You come in with the expectation that you are going to be spending a lot of money. And then we have things that are not a lot of money. I mean, things that are a few $100s. Like when I go shopping and I see things that are $200, I'm like, whoa, I'm definitely not buying that. But when someone comes in and says, oh, I can't spend $200, I'm like, why? Like, do you know where you are? But
Right.
I mean, it's
Go to the mall, people. Go to the mall.
But
I'm not coming into your shop.
you can if you need a watch battery.
Oh, that was so brutal.
Actually,
So
you can
brutal.
give it to me on a Sunday, and then I'll bring it back to you the following Sunday.
You don't do Apple Watch batteries? You do like real watch.
I don't even. Does an Apple Watch take no, it's a charge. I thought.
Yeah, but what does it charge, Claire?
Okay,
It's got to charge a battery.
But if the okay, I don't think we do. I don't think.
No, I can't imagine that you guys do that.
I don't even know what kind of a battery is in an Apple Watch.
I do actually have. I love watches. That's one of the things that I would collect. And I really do love a beautiful watch. I don't have the money to buy really expensive watches, but I do have ones that aren't working that I should give you to get repaired because they're just beautiful.
I'll
big
definitely
face where you can see the gears and
definitely repair that for you.
It's nice.
Don't feel bad.
I won't, especially not after that insults you just tossed my way. So here are some of the myths surrounding procrastination. Are you enjoying this? Because it's really fucking cracking me up, the fact that we are procrastinating.
I was completely
procrastination.
prepared to talk about procrastination, but this makes way more sense.
It just feels, after our embarrassment episode, it feels like there's part of us that should be doing this.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
probably-
procrastination right now.
Maybe.
So what'd you have for dinner last night?
No, so here's what I actually have to say
Okay.
about procrastination.
Yes.
I had a rough week this week. I did not.
Okay.
I don't know why. I felt like emotionally, I was something was going on with me, and I can't figure out what exactly. I don't think there was a trigger, but I having just some. I was irritated, like more so than I am regularly, and on Friday or Saturday, I noticed that there are 3 things that I am procrastinating.
Okay. You did bring up this topic too, so.
I did. I think I was feeling particularly plagued by it.
Yeah.
And there are 3 things that I'm procrastinating. And I have gotten to one of them. I think there's always an expiration date on the things that you're procrastinating. Like you get to a point where you can no longer put it off.
Yes, absolutely.
And I got to that point with one of these things, and I handled it. And after I handled it,
nice?
What?
Good? Nice?
Yeah.
Okay.
I handled it. It was something I really didn't want to do. It's a sensitive subject between like me and a friend. And
Yeah.
so I handled it, and I felt better.
Good.
The second thing is also coming to its expiration date. And I really have no business procrastinating this. It's kind of like it's a little bit about a business matter.
Okay.
And I just can't, I didn't want to, there's some inner self-esteem that I'm lacking, which is why I'm afraid to approach this subject, or a little bit of
Okay.
fear I have about talking to somebody about something.
And this is business.
It's business related.
Okay.
And the third thing I feel like is also getting it. Actually, the third thing I will tell you is talking to the car dealership about my experience with them.
Oh.
I should have told them how I felt right up front.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. And they were like, will you write us a review? And I was like, I don't want to. I wanted to write an anonymous 2-star review.
Right. Or even say to them, like, I'd be happy to write you a review, but you may not be happy with the review that I give you.
There was some when I was when I was at the dealership, I was treated very well. When I was not at the dealership, and I was talking to, I was texting with my car salesman.
Yeah.
The communication and the vibe and the tone changed.
Okay.
And so there was a bit of something I didn't like. And then I was also called the day that I was picking up the car. I was rushed.
Right, which never feels good.
And I was told that I need to come in by a certain time, and I was very unhappy that they called me to tell me that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that to somebody.
Not on a huge purchase like a car. It just doesn't make any sense.
They were I was appalled. And then when I went in, I was totally prepared to tell them how I felt, but then they were so nice to me that I was like, oh, maybe I'm not mad anymore. But I still don't have a good taste in my mouth.
No.
And I need to tell them that, but now I feel like the moment is past. So that's another thing I'm procrastinating. And I feel it's broiling within me. It's just
right
roasting in there, and I think it's affecting me.
And I what a beautiful indication of the moment hasn't passed. You know, we can tell ourselves of just because time has passed that maybe I don't have to go back and take care of this thing. But like you said, there's something in you that's bubbling and it is starting to affect you. And you have to, for lack of a better term, unburden yourself of this experience. And
I find that when I am more productive, I feel better as a person. Like my mental health is better. I'm studying for a big test right now, and I make sure that on my 2 days off that I have on my weekend that I set aside a couple of hours at a time to do the work. And when I do that, I feel productive. I have procrastinated that so as much as I can, but I've given myself too much time to do the work.
Yeah.
And I do better when I give myself less time to do the work.
Because it's inviting procrastination for sure. I work really well with a deadline. Like when I used to write a play for a local high school for a senior show, and I would have to write it every year. And it was really, really hard. I could map out what I wanted to do, but until the auditions were looming, till the information meeting was looming, a lot didn't get done. And then when I had that deadline, I mean, there was one year where all of the audition sides came from the first half of the play because the second half of the play wasn't finished yet. I did this for 8 years, wow. 8 different shows. There's something about the pressure, like you said, the expiration date on procrastination that motivates me to get it done. I just know that it has to get done. And if I have too much time, I just will put it off and put it off and put it off till the pressure of doing it forces me to do it. And and I work all right in a situation like that. But otherwise, I just live in procrastination.
There was a moment I remember very distinctly in high school where it was the beginning of either my junior or senior year, and I was doing all of my schoolwork and all my homework in a timely manner, and then so that I'd go to school prepared with having done my homework, but then one day I was like, well, I'm just gonna not do this tonight. I'm going to do tomorrow morning in my homeroom. because I couldn't stand the fact that I had, like, having my slate clean for the day was uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, you needed
I
to have
needed a
something.
little bit of chaos. I
Yeah,
needed to rush this homework assignment during my homeroom. And of course I get to homeroom and then I don't want to do the homework. I want to talk to my friend.
Right.
And then I'm like, wait a second, what did I just do? And it was like after that moment, and my whole life fell apart.
it just fell apart.
I was like, oh my God, I know I have a problem.
Well, I think we can all admit that homework is bullshit. The education system is faulty. If you cannot teach the lessons during class, taking the time away, I just don't believe in. I understand they want to call it the repetition of doing things to get it in, but you should be able to do it within school time.
Mm-hmm.
Homework shouldn't take 4 hours a night for students. It just shouldn't. Anyways,
Can you believe? Can I say something?
please.
In high school, I was pretty much told to read Hamlet either in my junior year or my senior year. I was told to read the book and then just that's it. Come to class and then we talk about the book. And I'm reading this, or the play, and I'm reading it and I'm like,
Long.
what the heck am I reading?
Yep.
What is this? I don't get it. It's not language that I understand.
Yeah.
And guess who never went over it? The teachers. And they probably didn't go over it because they didn't understand it themselves. But I learned more in one semester in college, one Shakespeare class,
Right.
where it was a 50-minute class 2 or 3 times a week. And she would give us tiny reading assignments, tiny ones. Like we'd have the big ass Shakespeare book and you would only read like one page to the next.
Right.
And because she didn't want you to read too much. And then I learned more in the class that she was giving that day because we would go through every single line and she would pull out every single reference. She would explain every word.
Mm-hmm.
She would explain why it was placed that way in the phrase. This is prose, this is poetry, this is pentameter, this is this.
Yep.
And I was like, this doesn't seem that difficult. All of a sudden, Shakespeare didn't seem difficult to me anymore.
I'm sorry, English teachers. I'm sorry. You shouldn't be teaching Shakespeare. Because you're looking at it as poetry. You're looking at it as maybe an overall story, but it's a play, and you have to study it as a play. And I think your teacher was teaching you it as a play. Your Shakespeare teacher was teaching you it as a play because understanding everything that you're saying is really important in terms of being able to deliver the language, understanding the verse versus the prose, understanding how the pentameter works, understanding how you're using the syllables in a pentameter line, giving you information about how what you stress and how it's supposed to come across. All of that stuff is essential towards making it be understood. I did the Scottish play my sophomore year in high school. I've done so much Shakespeare in my life at this point. People think that I really know my Shakespeare. As a sophomore in high school, I knew nothing about the Scottish play, reading it.
Did you
it made
perform
zero.
it, or you?
It was English class. It made no sense to me.
But when you said you did it, did you read it or did you perform it?
We maybe read a little bit in class and
Okay.
stuff like that. The high school eventually did it the next year, so I got to see it actually done.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it done, when people I know who don't like Shakespeare see it, they understand it more than when they read it. My point was just as a sophomore, I didn't understand a word of it. It really seemed like a different language to me.
Mm-hmm. So you say that you think that Shakespeare should be performed, not read as literature.
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm. I do think that in my college course, which really sparked my interest, it re-sparked my interest in Shakespeare. I actually didn't have any interest in it, but I had to take it. It was required to be an English major in college. And
A sidebar. First time I saw you perform, it was Shakespeare.
really?
Yep.
Was it the Scottish play?
Nope.
Wait, was it? What? Was it Much Ado?
Nope.
Was it Hamlet?
Nope.
Wait, what did I do?
You killed our close friend Alex Clapp.
Oh.
Yep.
It was Romeo and Juliet.
It was.
That was the first time you'd seen me?
Perform. I think I met you before,
That
but
is so
this is the first
funny.
time I saw you perform.
I feel like that was a little miscast in that. I pretty much asserted myself in that role as Tybalt. I said I would take that or no other part.
You have a Tybalt in you, but naturally, I think in the overall thing, I think I would place you somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I had no interest in learning any lines.
None.
No, I don't.
That whole system of like rehearse it for a weekend and then perform it seems
no, I wasn't
crazy to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, I interrupted you and I don't even know. If I remember
Anyway,
where you were.
so we in college we had studied the I think we did a bunch of plays, read them, but we also learned the history of what was going on in history at the time of these Shakespeare plays. And
context helps.
Yes. Read the play, learn the context. Know why Shakespeare referred to this in the play, because this was going on in politics at the time.
Right.
So that made sense. The play, the Henry VIII, it's history. He's writing about history. That I think was important. And while reading the Shakespeare plays, which I only read like an act a night or a scene a night, which was so easy, then I was also reading the history of the Tudors.
Right.
Which helped so much in the context of Shakespeare's history, which then all pieced it together. So I think that's helpful. If you're going to study Shakespeare, study the time period, study the history.
Especially if you're going to study that history, because that's a soap opera like no other soap opera in history.
It was fun.
Yeah. When you think of the time of Henry VIII, and you're like, oh, history can be so boring, and then you're like, what did he do?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, how many wives?
Mm-hmm.
How? It's very, very much like a soap opera.
I also had another class in college that was horrific. It was absolutely, this class drove me to the brink of a mental breakdown. Actually, a complete mental breakdown.
Okay.
But
go on.
One of the papers that we had to write was about how Shakespeare didn't write any of his plays, and they were all written by Christopher Marlowe.
Well, there's not a lot of evidence to support that theory. I think there's more evidence to support there was a lord of like Oxford or something like that who they say you can pinpoint to like his education and his understanding and all of this, that he could have, if this is true, could have been the real author of Shakespeare's plays. Mm-hmm. To me, in the end, it doesn't really matter, because Shakespeare is more of just like a title, a broad like categorization of these types of plays that I will always consider Shakespeare, whether the person William Shakespeare wrote them or not. And it probably tainted. No, it's probably tinted for me.
Tainted?
Well, I meant in a good way.
Oh.
So tinted, I think. After watching Shakespeare in Love, Joe Fiennes is Shakespeare in my mind. So he's always going to be cool. So I'll always like consider that. But did Shakespeare write his stuff? Maybe, maybe not.
Okay.
You can go down rabbit holes and stuff like that. And some make sense and some don't. I've never dove deep into that. It just doesn't interest me.
We had, I didn't even, that class and that assignment was the first introduction I had to that concept that maybe Shakespeare didn't write his plays, or that it was, I mean, who's to say, like, it was thousands of years ago.
Right.
So,
I mean, technically you could also say that Shakespeare didn't write any of his plays because he never put them together. He wrote the parts for everybody. So it's like, if you're talking about Hamlet, he wrote Hamlet's part on a piece of paper, and he wrote Ophelia's part on a piece of paper. And so he didn't put together, kind of like the Bible. It was like afterwards they put together all the stories and looked at it. But yeah, Shakespeare never wrote like the finished version of it. The stage managers or whoever, the business managers ended up putting all of that stuff together to make the first
business
folio.
managers.
Like, whoever was.
Oh, who? What?
the money. They had the people who in the theater. Again, go back to Shakespeare in Love. Not Fenneman, Henslow, whatever they were. Procrastination. You said that you had a procrastination thing with a friend that had an expiration date on it. That you don't have to give me the details of any of that outside of like I don't understand the deadline part when it comes to friends. Like there are things in me that are like I want to get off my chest and understand like that, but I don't feel like a ticking clock, or I do feel a ticking clock, but I don't know what the what the end day is.
I'll explain the context because it'll make sense. I made a friendship last year, and there were a couple of complications in the friendship over time, and then I had decided that I didn't want to be in the friendship anymore, and this person didn't know that I felt that way because I didn't tell them that.
Right.
So so this year, and this person's very unwell, and so they were, they've been texting me a lot.
Right.
And they've been texting me and completely and I haven't been responding to the messages, and this has been going on for months.
Okay.
And I was kind of hoping that they would just get the message that I wouldn't reply, and then they would stop. But this texts kept coming in and kept coming in and kept coming in. And as an unwell person does, they just keep doing what they want to do.
Right, right.
And I felt bad because I felt like I led this person on to think that I wanted more in the friendship than I did. And I also didn't know how to word what I needed to say. I felt like I maybe owed them more of an explanation, but because this was a little bit more of a self-preservation thing, like it was
Right.
healthier for me to not be in the friendship. I really was told by some people that I really owe them no explanation, that I can decide to end it and I don't need to tell them why. And so after months and months and months of this person not like texting me and then eventually being like, okay, I don't know why you're not texting me anymore. I guess I won't talk to you anymore. Okay, bye. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're not going to respond ever again. But then a couple days later, they would write back. They would say something.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
eventually had to write and say, I'd like to take a break from our friendship. I'd appreciate it if you stopped messaging me and calling me. I wish you the best. And then I got a few more texts after that. And if it persists, then I have to block this person's phone number.
Yeah, yeah.
That was looming over me for a while because I felt guilty and I felt like I was doing something wrong, and maybe I was doing something wrong. But that was, and so with the expiration date was that I should have sent that message months ago.
Right, right.
And the expiration date for me meant there was the opportunity for me to say this to this person had passed, and it was like winding up like a spring within me that was getting tighter and tighter and tighter.
Right.
And eventually I was like, I can't put this off any longer.
Yeah. So it like
because it's starting to wear at
it's
me.
a kinesthetic thing. It is a feeling of I can't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tightly wound within it. I was going to say that's interesting, and it is interesting, but like it feels like a weird response to the story you just told. It's so hard in those moments if you don't feel like you have the words to be articulate and kind of end it. But like with the you're saying there's a cost to it, this tightening within you. God, it makes me think. I had a very interesting is not the right word, but a very interesting experience with procrastination last week, and it's gonna be weird. So so I woke up not feeling well.
This isn't funny.
It's not funny, except that's the only way I can get my tension out. I wasn't feeling well last week. I in the last podcast, I kind of mentioned what was going on and stuff like that. So I wasn't feeling well for a couple of days, and I woke up on Friday and I really wasn't feeling well, and I called into work and was like, I think I gotta take myself to the ER because there's something. Can't very shallow breath. Can't really catch my breath. My heart's racing. All of this shit. I gotta go to the ER. I really gotta go. Gotta go to the ER. So I called into work, said I can't go. But I knew during the day, at around 3:15, I had an interview for a job that I really, really wanted. And so even though I knew I should take myself to the ER, I procrastinated to the point where I wanted to go do this interview to try to get this job, and that I would take myself afterwards to do it. And, I didn't get the job.
Oh no!
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Oh, shit!
It wasn't my best interview, because
Did you tell them?
I didn't tell them. Ugh. I didn't tell them. It wasn't my best interview because I was pretty lightheaded the whole time. I was really struggling to breathe, and I think I put on a decent show. I think it was a decent interview considering I was having some sort of cardiac event.
Oh my God, Matt!
But I know. But I didn't get the job. And then I was told some alumni got the job, so it wasn't really even a chance for me to get it. But I held out to do this stupid interview, drive 40 minutes to go do it when I knew that I was in trouble.
Did you learn from this?
I hope so. I don't know.
Well,
here's the thing. The whole event, part of me is like, I don't be dramatic. Your life may have been in danger, but it wasn't really, didn't get up to the point where I don't know. It's hard to talk about without thinking like you're being dramatic when you talk about life and death. But it was as certainly as close to come as I've experienced, and it's certainly life changing in so many ways. And a trauma. I really put myself through a trauma. And I spoke about this with my therapist and all of that. And so in the result, after this stupid act of procrastination, there is a clock ticking in me that says there are certain things that are in my mind. There's certain things in who I am and my feelings that now feel like I've put them off for so long, and now I have to communicate them without a desired outcome. That's the biggest thing. Is I have things to say that you hope change people's thoughts and whatever, but they can't be the goal. My goal has got to be at this point to just say the things that I'm feeling and get them on the table, and that's the only goal. And whatever happens after that happens, and that's fine. But I can't procrastinate from that anymore. And it's not that I can't worry about other people's feelings is not the correct way to say it, but I can't worry about either
people pleasing.
Yeah, that's it, Claire. That's really it. People pleasing, which I spend so much of my time doing because I want to make everybody comfortable, and I constantly don't want to put my shit on other people. But now is the time. Very clearly, now is the time to do it, no matter what the response is.
Isn't that, what's interesting is we think we don't want to put our shit on other people, but there are people who put their shit on other people, and they don't know that they're doing it, and they don't care that they're doing it.
Oh, absolutely, right?
But we care that we're doing it, which means that we don't do it enough.
I know.
And when we do it, it actually is very important, and it's actually important for you, and it's important for other people.
Yeah. Yeah. You put it so perfectly. I want to be thoughtful in my life. And in doing that, I am being thoughtful. But yet I don't give myself credit for being thoughtful. Because I could be one of those other people who puts all of this stuff on people and not know.
No, I don't think you can.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Because I think that I have that same thought. I have
Yeah.
that same almost like a fear that I'm going to overwhelm somebody. But I think that I have done that before. I think I
really?
have the potential of doing that. I've had a couple of tough friendships in the past, and I think one of these people got honest with me about how I talk about myself all the time, and that was in I don't know, middle school, high school, and I was so alarmed that I did that. And then there was a time when I was really young that my father told me I don't know what was going on at this time. I was very young. I was maybe like 10, and he told me to stop using the word I, like as in talking about myself.
Oh, wow.
And so I wrote it on a piece of paper, don't say I, and I taped it on my ceiling. And then because he said that to me, it made me realize like, oh, maybe I talk about myself too much, which I thought was a bad thing. And I didn't want to come across as bad. I didn't like that. So, but it went against like the grain
Yeah.
in who I am. And I don't know if I wanted to talk about myself a lot, or if I felt like, oh my God, what does this mean? Like, I was called selfish. I was called self-centered. I was called like by my family. They told me I was those things. And I really, that made me so sad because I was just being myself.
Right. And then you probably overcorrect.
And then I overcorrect. Yes. No, that's a good way of putting it.
And when you're that young and your family says this to you, and you know, I don't know your family that well. It makes me wonder why you felt the need to advocate for yourself and why they were so threatened by that.
I don't know. Maybe I was annoying. Or maybe, I don't know. And I don't think I'd get an answer today because I think I brought this up a couple times and they have no memory of it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But so
the effect that it had on you and they don't remember feels...
There's a lot of that. I think people block out what they don't want to remember.
I'm a little angry at them right now.
I mean, there are things that, there are other things that have happened that like parents, I think, they do things and then they forget that they've done things because they block it out.
Yeah. I think so. You know, I love my mom, but yeah, there are things that like I talk about in therapy based upon everything that's gone on that may, you know, aren't as traumatic as other things, but like are my story that have kind of led me to where I am. The battle with self-loathing, where that comes from, where I decided that I was not good enough, where the way that I treat myself, the way that I talk to myself, I allow myself to talk to myself. I've never ever put that up. I would never let anybody talk to my friends that way. You know, I would never. I would never talk about my enemies the way that I talk about myself. Like, why is that okay? I would never. The people that I hate, I don't really hate anybody. I'm not really a believer in hate. But the people who frustrate me, the people I'm most at odds with, I would never discuss the way. I would never talk about them the way that I have talked about myself. I would not do that.
It goes deep. It goes really deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I you were talking about overwhelming. I deeply am concerned with the overwhelming because I have such big feelings, such huge feelings that I feel like even if my narrative or however I'm experiencing this thing, the other person isn't feeling this thing, and then I'm going to bombard them with all of this big feeling, and you're like, ugh.
Which is funny because we don't have to think for other people.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. We don't. No, it's huge. There is. I was talking to somebody about some a thing that I had to bring up to another friend, a different subject. And I said, I'm afraid to say this because I'm afraid of how they're gonna feel. And this person said to me, don't think for the other person.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
Don't anticipate what they're gonna say. Don't anticipate how they're gonna feel. Which, when someone says that to you, and this person, I really trust and I revere their opinion very, highly. That sits with me, and when I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's right. I don't have to think for another person.
Yeah. I often try to anticipate someone's the different versions of what their response is. I think as self-preservation, though.
Yeah, and we don't have to do that.
No,
no, we don't.
No, because it's not healthy. I had a really important therapy session yesterday because it's been a week. It's been a real week, and I just had to work through as much as I could, and some things came up that surprised me, and I found I'm a little bit angrier than I normally am. I'm not one that defaults to anger, and I try to push it away. I think often because I'm a big guy, and I'm a little scared of my anger, and I'm scared of being angry and how it would make other people feel. So I avoid it, or it's contained. It's a contained anger, and I found that I'm much angrier. But as I'm working through all of this stuff, and I'm saying, and this person could respond this way, and this person could respond, or she said, well, how do you think they would respond to it? And I said, it could, that's not what she said. She said, what is the best response that could happen from it? And what's the worst response that could happen from it? So I answered those things. And as I'm answering the worst response, I'm like, but yeah, that wouldn't happen. There's the worst version of it. This person would not respond that way to that. There's no way. And it was really enlightening for me to go, this is futile for me to think about how somebody will interpret whatever big feelings I open up to them, because you just don't know. You don't know.
No, and people don't think the way we think.
No, they don't.
Which was a huge learning curve for me a few years ago. I was like, wait a minute. People aren't going to do what I think they're going to do or think the way that I think they're going to think because they aren't me.
Yeah. It's so hard. I mean,
no one else is like me. Wow.
No, there are similarities for sure. And people do common ground, but to think everybody's individual reaction to something would be the same, or that somebody will process it. Do you ever do this? You send a cheeky text and you think oh, they'll respond this way. Or this is the way that they could respond. And then it's nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
The response is nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a moment of oh, was I not being cheeky enough? Was I being too cheeky? Are they ignoring? And you're like, no, it's just they're interpreting what they're interpreting. There's no right or wrong version of that, I
know.
Oh, the mind. So in the end, we did a little clever thing about procrastination, right?
Yeah.
So we procrastinated, and
Sorry about that.
It was fun because I always enjoy just talking with Claire about whatever. But at the core of it, the idea that we are pushing off things that we shouldn't push off to people please, to make other people feel comfortable, is really like at the core of.
I think this is a very important subject.
Yeah.
I think we've moved on from there's procrastination and then there's people pleasing. I think it's another subject. I think this is.
That's a whole other episode.
I think it's a whole other episode because there's so much that I want to say.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I have to go.
No. We've gone over our hour, and I have a matinee that I have to do.
You have to go. Oh my gosh, you have to go. You have a performance.
Maybe eat something before all of that.
Yeah. I have to eat something too. Okay. Well, to be continued.
Yeah, but I like at the core, I think the procrastination leads us to people pleasing, which leads us to a totally different episode. And there is a difference between like the procrastination of like work and everyday things, and then the procrastinations of things that are running much deeper inside.
Don't
of us.
procrastinate. It's unhealthy. It's going to give you migraines.
I mean, you can't get any clearer than that.
Mm-hmm.
Grady's not here, so no farty noises.
No, definitely not. Can't do it.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
So what did we learn? Well, I think we learned that I kind of cracked myself up this time by procrastinating about talking about procrastinating, which isn't really a clever joke, but in the moment it made me feel very good. We found out that procrastination, when it has an expiration date, can move things along pretty quickly. But I don't think procrastination is the worst thing in the world. If it becomes a habitual habit, then there's a problem. But a little bit of procrastination can spark some creativity. But the bottom line is you can't put everything off forever. You got to get to it. So procrastinate a little bit, but then you got to do what you're probably dreading you have to do. Embrace your oh no's, people. Thank you for listening to the Last Will Podcast. If you'd like to reach us, we are available at the Last Will Podcast on Instagram. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us get more and more listeners. And the more and more listeners we get, the more product that we can bring to you, the more fun we can bring to you, the adventures we can bring to you. So do it! Or don't, But thanks for listening. And remember, onward, forward,